What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. Today, I would like to go over an install commission that I completed on a hilt, a custom one-off hilt from Space Junk Sabers. So this is I do think it is a speeder inspired or a speeder bike grip inspired hilt. It does look like, I keep looking at it like, so it does look like this is one of Nevin from Space Junk Sabers, one of his early speeder builds. This was sent to me by the customer for an install. I believe the customer got this on the lightsaber market or something like that. So wanted to do an install on this, obviously, and I had to approach this install a little bit differently in that, so we've got an MHS V2 grip here. So we've got a pretty thin internal diameter and it is very short, right? So I knew that I would have to go with a speaker pod, and I also set this chassis up with a tilted proffieboard module. Tilted proffieboard setup, right? So we can hide, you save space that way, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit when we go over the chassis, which is what we're going to do right now. So let's come into Fusion and talk about this chassis. All right, so here is the chassis that I designed for this hilt. So right off the bat, you'll notice this tilted proffieboard tray here. We save a lot of room. I do. Like I've noticed that with tight builds like this and builds where you can kind of hide the proffieboard up underneath the upper section of the hilt, it saves a lot of space that way, right? So I had to do that with this particular install, or I probably could have gone with something like an 18350 battery, but I don't like doing that all of the time because obviously we don't get as much usage out of a smaller battery, right? You can't use your blade for as long as you can with an 18650, right? So put a tilted proffieboard here. Here is our battery tray. Around both sides, I've got greeblies. This was a very, very tight build, so I did not end up going with any onboard NeoPixels along each side, but I did do some of my greebly work on each side of the chassis. And I also have a speaker pod. So with this particular build, unfortunately in the pommel was just under 27 millimeters, so I wasn't able to get a 28 millimeter speaker in the speaker pod, but I was able to do a 24 millimeter fully enclosed speaker in a speaker pod. I did end up doing something a little different with this particular speaker pod. I do have an accent LED at the bottom. We'll take a look at that when we do an up and close, but I do have a cap that houses the kill switch as well as that LED and our speaker, like our pogo pin speaker PCB, right? And that's it. And all my other leads come out the top here. This is secured in the upper part of the hilt with a set screw. And that's it, right? Pretty straightforward static chassis. So let's come up top. All right, so here it is. This is a speeder variant from Nevin over at Space Junk Sabers. I don't know that this has an official name. Again, from looking at it, I've had a number of Nevin's hilts come across my desk. I feel like this is an older build, right? So this may have been before he started naming his hilts with a unique name. We do have a very cool switch solution here, right? So this, to me, this looks like a Graflex red button screw, right? And that's actually exactly what it was. I needed to disassemble this. There's like a plastic 3D printed switch holder that was kind of just press fit in here. I needed to remove that to wire up my switches. Very, very unique setup, actually. The threaded post that you use to thread this into the hilt, it's hollow. So that's how we get our switch leads to go into the inside of the hilt, right? Super, super unique switch setup. So to the client, can you tell I work in IT? To the client customer, do not unscrew this because this has switch leads going to it. So this is just, it needs to stay where it is. Otherwise, if you start screwing it and messing with it, it's going to kink those wires and we don't want that, right? Very unique blade plug as well. This came with the hilt. Super, super cool looking hilt. So to get to your chassis, you want to unscrew your grip. Let's take a look at the chassis first. So I did a pass of pewter rub and buff on this chassis. Here is that speaker, the pogo cap rather, or chassis cap, there is a very small square rectangular LED at the bottom here as well, just to give a little bit of accent. For me, I've noticed that like if you do a speaker pod setup like this, when you turn the hilt on, you don't know that you have power. I mean, obviously it's either on or off, right? So I like having a little status light down here so you know that the hilt is on. And then of course we've got our pogo pin set, speaker pogo pin set from Smugglers Outpost at the bottom here. And that's it. So let's get a battery. Okay, so spring side is your negative. So take the flat part of your battery, rest it in that battery tray. So we've got our light that is on now. So if you don't see a light, you're not on, hit that kill switch. Now you've got power, okay? I want to take the pommel off because I want to talk about what I did down there as well. Once you get your battery in, screw your grip on. Okay, so the other reason I like doing this kind of setup is you don't have to take the entire grip off to turn the hilt on. You can just unscrew the pommel and hit that kill switch. Here is the speaker pod. So this speaker pod will live in this hilt, in this pommel. It will not come out. Another thing that I had to do with this particular build, the collar where this threading is one internal diameter, and down here it widens. So obviously I couldn't come from the bottom with my speaker pod. I actually had to make a couple of 3D printed sleeves. That way that speaker pod can rest all the way down in the pommel. So it's one continuous internal diameter in there, right? And there's our pogo, or male end of that PCB, or female end rather. I can't talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me. So once you get your battery in, hit that kill switch, thread your pommel on, and you're ready to go. Let's come down to the bottom. And that was a struggle to get through. I don't know why I can't talk today. So, fully enclosed 24 millimeter. Twist to activate, twist to deactivate is on. Let's see what else we can. Traitor! Let's put a blade in it. So this has an existing blade plug in it. There is a knurled thumb screw in the front here that serves as your blade retention. Let's take that blade plug out. Okay, so this is a 1-inch blade holder. Make sure your blade is resting on those PCB pins. Let me make sure that's loose. Now tighten that thumb screw and you're ready to go. See what else we put on here. One more. And even though that is a 24 millimeter speaker, when you enclose them, they do perform a little bit better, right? So it does sound really, really good. So this is a great hilt. It was interesting to figure out a solution for this install, right? So with tight builds like this, I do like doing that tilted Proffie board because you can still really easily get to your USB. Let's turn that off so I'm not blinding you. So you can get at the USB port in your SD card because it's just peeking right underneath these threads, and you save a lot of space. I mean, I've got 1.5 inches of space that I save because I'm hiding that Proffie board up underneath the upper part of the hilt, right? So really nice hilt to the client, customer. Thank you very much for trusting me with your build. If anyone has any questions about this build or anything really, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.